get started. Good evening. I'd like to ask, we will start with our swearing in. If Mayor-elect Danielson will come forward to be sworn in. Get on the other side. Yep, you're good. You're good, Peg. So if you'll place your left hand on the Bible, right hand towards God, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear and affirm that I am duly qualified, according to the Constitution of this state, to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and the United States as mayor of the town of Irmo, South Carolina. I will equally, fairly, and impartially, to the best of my ability and skill, exercise the trust reposed in me, and I will use my best endeavors to preserve the peace and carry into effect, according to the law and the purpose for which I have been elected. So help me God. Congratulations. If Councilwoman elect Phyllis Coleman would come forward. If you'll place your left hand on the Bible and the right hand towards God, and repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm that I am duly qualified, according to the Constitution of this state, to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States as a councilwoman of the town of Irmo, South Carolina. I will equally, fairly, and impartially, to the best of my ability and skill, exercise the trust reposed in me, and I will use my best endeavors to preserve the peace and carry into effect, according to the law and the purpose for which I have been elected. So help me God. Congratulations. Councilman Eric Sickinger. Place your left hand on the Bible and your right hand towards God and repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm that I am duly qualified, according to the Constitution of this state, to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and the United States. As a council member of the town of Irmo, South Carolina, I will equally, fairly, and impartially, to the best of my ability and skill, exercise the trust reposed in me, and I will use my best endeavors to preserve the peace and carry into effect, according to the law and the purpose for which I have been elected. So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, all yours.
Welcome. Congratulations to all. Right now, I would like to call the meeting to order. I guess I'll use that. And I would like to call up Mackenzie, Smith, and Kayla. Are you here? Come on, girls. Don't be shy. They're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, folks. Thank you.
Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we count it a privilege to come before your throne of grace. God, we thank you for the opportunity to serve this community. We pray, oh God, that you will give wisdom and strength and guidance to these newly elected council persons. We pray, oh God, that you will guide them to do what is right for all people. God, we pray a special blessing for all those who are under the sound of my voice tonight. We count it a privilege, oh God, to serve a God like you. For it's in the name of Jesus the Christ we pray. Amen. Amen.
Okay. The approval of the agenda. I'd like to look for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
It's been a first and a second. Any discussion? All for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? You. Okay, this is the fun part of the meeting where we're going to make some appointments. And the first one that we need to do is we need to elect, as a body up here, the mayor pro tem, who would sit in the event of the mayor's absence for a variety of endeavors, as well as leading these meetings if deemed necessary. So I'll look for a motion.
I move that we elect Councilman Eric Sickinger as our mayor pro tem.
Is there a second? Thank you. There's a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have it. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Eric. Next item up is the appointment of a municipal clerk. This is an important job. She does it well, and I'll look for a motion.
I move that we appoint Renee Cavanis as the municipal clerk.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Renee, for your service and continued service. Next up is the appointment of a town attorney, and this is the attorney who will sit here through all these meetings and will do the work behind the scenes that are required to keep this town legal and on the right path. So I would look for a motion.
I'll make a motion for Will Edwards.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. All right, next up is the appointment of a special projects attorney. And I think we're all, well, I can't speak for everybody. I know I'm thrilled that he's here to continue in that role. Hopefully my colleagues will see fit to motion and second on this. So this particular person will work on legal problems, legal issues that are of project nature. We have quite a few of those coming up, so it will be some heavy lifting. So I'll look for a motion.
I nominate Jake Moore.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You got it, Jake. Thank you very much. I'm going to clap for that. Okay, the last and certainly not least is the appointment of our criminal prosecution attorney. And we're keeping it all in the family, I would guess. Has been doing a great job. And I would look for a motion from my colleagues.
I move for Jake Moore Jr.
Second.
Any further nominations? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, sir. We appreciate your service. The next item is the reading of the minutes, and you want to tell us what's going on here?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we did not get them prepared in time. We just had them right before the Thanksgiving break, so we will have them at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the administrative briefing. Courtney, do you have anything extra than what we've already received?
Sure. I did want to give a brief update to the camera project. So we do have the 6 flock cameras.
Mike?
Can you not hear me? How about now? All right, we do have the 6 flock cameras out and deployed. As far as the static cameras go, we are working on a pilot project with that on Crown Point Court. Originally, we were waiting on some information back from Dominion on a permit to attach to one of their poles. We have recently learned in the past few weeks that their permitting of that is frozen, not just in Irmo, but in general. And so we have pivoted to installing our own pole, which is going to require some electricity to be ran to it and a meter. So that project is going a little bit slower than anticipated, mainly because of the shift in the permitting. But we do hope to get that back on track and give you all a more realistic timeline once we get the pilot solidified. And then secondly, on the agenda tonight is an update from Ed Gomo on the strategic plan. Unfortunately, he is sick and could not attend tonight. So if we could just push that off to maybe the next meeting. No action needs to be taken by council to do that. Just recognize that he's not here tonight, and we can move on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the presentation of the Stewart Corporation on Vision 2034 Comprehensive Plan. Come on down, give us your name and
Good evening. My name's Jake Petrosky. I work with Stewart, a consultant firm that's helping the town out. And I just have a brief presentation to kind of kick off the comprehensive plan. So testing. Oh, there we go. Okay. Jake Petrosky, work with Stewart, a consultant firm that's helping the town out, along with Boudreaux and Three Oaks Engineering with the comprehensive plan. And if you can go to the next slide. This is a pretty big project for the town. It's really meant to be the town plan that lays out a vision for Irmo and how to get there. It's going to take about a year-long process. And there's a first step. We're working with a steering committee and doing some data gathering, that sort of thing. The second step is really the visioning process. There's going to be a lot of public engagement, survey, stakeholder meetings, public workshops, that sort of thing, to gather input from a broad cross-section of the community on what some of the concerns are that they want to see addressed really over the next couple years. And then it's going to be in a policy document that you all are going to, it's going to come back to you all sometime in the fall. Comprehensive plan is really a long-range plan. It's meant to be the town plan. It looks at the next 10, 20 years. What do we want to accomplish? What do we want to remain true about the town of Irmo in 10 years? And what do we want to address? It could be things that we haven't addressed over the last couple of years or new emerging issues that we want to address. It's going to provide guidance in terms of land use and development, where different types of developments should go, what is the intensity or density of those developments, what other design features should be incorporated in new developments, whether it's commercial or residential, that sort of thing. I also will provide guidance on staff and programs and infrastructure and services, those things that people rely on from the town, but also quality of life things that contribute to the quality of life of citizens. It's going to really meant to be collaborative. It's meant to be a community conversation that we have over the next 8 months or a year to talk about where we want to go as a town. It is a policy document. It's not regulatory. It's not going to immediately update the zoning ordinance, but it can provide some direction on ways the zoning ordinance should be updated long-term in order to accomplish some goals of the town. It is required by the state of South Carolina to have an up-to-date comprehensive plan. An update is required every 5 years and a full rewrite every 10. This is a full rewrite. The Planning Act also specifies that the plan needs to address certain topics like land use and housing and transportation, resiliency and population, and these sorts of things. We're going to be looking at population growth over time, both inside the city limits and on the edges of the city limits. That's something that we're going to be looking at. Go to the next slide. Also, other demographic variables like income and housing and that sort of thing. You all have a lot of good things going on in Irmo. You are kind of on the upper end of median household income in the area. So that's something we want to encourage. We will encourage economic development and new businesses and opportunities for our citizens. You also have a lot of assets and issues that we want to kind of look at and encourage. Parks and the Okra Strut, other events, natural assets like Lake Murray and Saluda River. How do we take advantage of those and connect to those? How do we maintain our quality of housing and improve that? How do we deal with transportation issues in our main corridors? What do they look like now and in the future? Public engagement, as I mentioned, is going to be a big part of this. So we're doing stakeholder interviews and focus groups and public workshops and a community survey. And the input needed is really, this is, over the next, 6 months or 8 months. What we want to hear is what are the biggest issues and opportunities in the town over the next 5 or 10 years? What should this plan accomplish? How do we reach all the communities in town? Something for you all and really citizens to be thinking about, have conversations about over the holidays. Talk to your friends and family and neighbors and have those conversations and be ready to tell us and bring them to the table so that we can create a plan that represents all the voices in town.
Thank you, Jake. Hold on, we probably have a question. Anybody have some questions on the comprehensive plan at this point? Yes, sir?
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the community engagement side of it. And I don't think that a plan like this can be done successfully if it's done in a vacuum or just with the same 10 loud voices that, the elected body always hears from. Not that we don't want to hear from them. So I know so in my opinion, it's really important to not only get a high count in terms of just numbers of people responding, but also a diverse group of voices, and not just higher income, not just low income, but really a cross section of the town. How do you accomplish that outside of, town hall meetings, which, I would expect, unfortunately, not a ton of people come to those. So what do the other outreach efforts look like to try to get that community engagement to have a real, actual, genuine understanding of how the residents feel?
Well, we're using a lot of different approaches. One crucial way we're doing that is our steering committee, in trying to utilize them and their connections. So that's going to be really important. The stakeholder interviews that we're going to be doing in February, we want to hear from a broad cross-section of the community there. So if there are community leaders, folks that are active in the community, we're really looking to you all, the steering committee, and staff and others to put together a good, diverse cross-section of community for those small group conversations. That's really going to kind of set us in a right direction. In addition to that, the community survey, how we get the community survey out is going to be really important. It's going to be online, but also we're going to have paper copies and utilize all the resources that we can, the existing listserv, but also churches or civic groups or however to get the word out about that. Another way. And I think one of the things that, even we're talking about with the steering committee is staff is available to come to a meeting, whether that's a civic group or chamber or a church and talk about the comp plan and get some feedback. I think staff's willing to do that. We're willing to do that. The public workshops themselves, I think we're trying to do things a little bit different. We want to have a couple different meetings over the course of a couple days. Maybe an evening meeting, but maybe a morning meeting too, and maybe just some drop-in hours to if folks have some time and availability to come through. So, we're using a variety of methods. We're also going to try to keep track of who we're hearing from. Like on the survey, there's going to be some optional questions of demographics, so income and race and those sorts of things, so we can understand who we're hearing from and arguably more importantly, who we're not hearing from. And we have a good engagement plan, but we also know that we have to be a little bit flexible. If we're not hearing from a group of folks or an area of town, then we need to do some additional outreach to fill those gaps. And whether that's talking to community leaders or doing some direct outreach, that's something that I think staff and I know you all feel strongly about. So we're committed to do that.
I have a follow-on question behind Eric's. In terms of, when I saw the timeline, I saw that you had those community engagement meetings up front. Do you plan to have them periodically? Because I would think those groups, since they're not all going to occur at the same time, would need to hear what other groups said. There would have to be a little bit more maybe continual conversations rather than just the upfront part, because you're developing the plan as you move along, and there might be input that needs to be had or reviews further down the timeline.
Yeah, and there's really a couple phases. One is this initial phase where we're going to have the stakeholder meetings and the public workshops initially. We are going to have another round of engagement when we have draft recommendations, and kind of the balance of that, meetings versus focus groups. I think we're a little bit flexible there, but it could be that we talk to folks in the stakeholder meetings up front, but then we also bring them back together and say, this is kind of what we heard, this is what we're recommending, what are we missing, what do you really like, what do you really want the town to move forward with, sooner rather than later, that kind of thing. There's an element that's required by state law. It's called the priority investment element. And that kind of outlines, some things that the town can do to move some of those ideas in the plan forward sooner rather than later. So we want to get feedback later in the process to really shape that, to really give some direction, what can we accomplish in the next, 2 or 3 years, up to 5 years.
Specific to that question, Jake, diving down a little bit more into that, the church groups are a big thing here in the town, right? They're very healthy core of what the town of Irmo is about. Are you going to try to pull them together from multiple meetings with different churches, or are you going to reach out to separate churches on Sunday afternoons? How are you going to get, because if we get the churches involved and the folks in the local churches in Irmo, that's a major stakeholder for us. And as long as I've been sitting up here, stakeholder input on any subject has always been not as good as it could be. So could you just give me a little more direction on that? It's a little bit more specific.
Yeah, I mean, there is a collection of ministers that get together, and one of our steering committee members is on that. Using that group is something that we had talked about initially. So we were going to talk more about that. I mean, I think pastors and the police know this community more than anybody else, right? I mean, and utilizing pastors and making sure that we try to hear from their congregation and address the issues that they know about in the community is really important.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate your
Thanks.
report. Next up is the presentation from Hightower and Hightower, so I'm assuming it's Mr. Hightower. Highsmith. I don't know how you got from Hightower to Highsmith, but we'll take it. This is on our annual audit, which is fresh off the press. Courtney, before his comments, do you have anything to add prior?
It's my error on the identifying them on the agenda, but they've done a fantastic job. It's an independent audit. They've done a great job of getting it ready for you guys tonight.
I just think you've thrown me a curveball. You just wanted to throw me a curveball.
First night, right?
That's right. Go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Town Council. It's always a pleasure to come to Irmo and see what's going on. It's a place of excitement, and we really appreciate the opportunity to work with the town and conduct the financial audit. Big thanks to the staff of the town, especially Renee, getting everything together for us. She was very instrumental in getting us the information for this report. So we will start with the thicker report, and I'll keep my comments brief. We'll start with the financial statements, the thick report, and we'll start on page 1. And this is where everybody usually flips to see what kind of opinion they're getting on the financial statements. And this letter basically defines what management's responsibility is and what our responsibility is. Management's responsibility is for these financial statements, footnotes, and disclosures. Our responsibility is to express an opinion based on our audit of whether the numbers are correctly stated. And it's our privilege to say that these numbers are fairly presented. It's a clean audit opinion for the town of Irmo for the year ended June 30th, 2023. I'm not going to go through the report by page, but there are maybe 2 or 3 statements I just want to touch base on. The first one's on page 10. And this is the government-wide financial statement. There's 2 sets of financial statements in here, the government-wide and the fund financial statements. The government-wide includes all the capital assets of the town, plus all of the debt of the town. The fund financial statements do not. So we'll start with the government-wide on page 10. The total assets were $20,104,807. The total liabilities were $7,964,129. And the total net position of the town is $12,140,678. On page 11, it's the statement of activities. It's basically the income statement for the government-wide. The far right-hand column, 3 numbers up from the bottom, is the change in the net position for the year. And it was an increase of $2,817,822. That is primarily due to the ARPA money that came in, the American Rescue Plan. Page 12 is the fund financial statements. And this is the old way it was presented for years and years and years. And we always look at the general fund. That is the fund that really does all the services of the town. The total assets of the general fund were $8,857,085. The total liabilities are $360,684. So our general fund balance is $8,496,401. So the town is in a good financial position. On page 14, really the last statement I want to look at, just to let you know how the general fund's revenues came in this year. The revenues were $13,034,735. Our total expenditures were $9,641,943. We did have some transfers out of the ARPA money over to capital projects of $1,676,149. So we had an increase in our general fund of $1,716,643. The rest of the report, there's some good information in here. It's the footnotes and some supplementary schedules that are required by the Governmental County Standards Board. If you ever get into those and you have questions, please give me a call. Renee has all my contact information, and I'll be glad to answer any phone call regarding the financial statements. Just real briefly, the other report you have is our report to Town Council to let you know how we interacted with the town management. And it's our pleasure to say we didn't have any issues with management whatsoever. They answered all our questions, provided us all the information we needed, and there were no unusual or any issues that we had with them during the time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Pretty clean report.
Pretty clean report, yes, sir.
That's the term I'm going to use. And we're in a healthy position.
Yes, sir.
I just want to point out something that's in there. I think I pointed this out last time too. You talk about a deficiency, and a deficiency that the town has primarily is around the true segregation of duties.
Yes, sir.
Where the town does not have a CFO or a prime director of finance, a purely finance person. Is that correct?
Right. For the town to really get segregation of duties the way it need to be, you'd need that person and Miss Renee could maybe be that person, but we need probably 4 to 5 people below her to really get the segregation of duties, because you don't want the same person who can who writes up an entry into the system to be able to post that entry into the system. It should go through different channels. The town has taken a lot of necessary steps to mitigate this as much as possible, though. They're not just sitting back, okay, we got this, nothing we can do about it. No, they proactively try to get this segregated as much as possible. It's just where the biggest one is the management override of controls is what we call it, where one person can write the entry, post the entry, and those kind of things. And it's a small staff.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
but the town's mitigating it as much as possible.
Apply? Okay, just checking. Thank you, Mr. Highsmith. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great report.
Look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay, up next on the agenda is presentation by the citizens. This is for items 10 and 11 only. I don't believe I even was given a list. And if, just to let you all know, we need you to speak into the microphone. You have 3 minutes. And we do not engage in discourse. We're hearing what you have to say. So if you ask questions, we really can't answer them according to the rules. So if you just want to tell us where you stand and what's going on and what's of concern, that will be great.
Mr. Mayor, if I might add, any person presenting needs to give their name and address as well.
Yes, name and address as well. for that. But since there's nobody there, c'est la vie. Okay, anybody want to say anything? Anybody want to come up, say anything? Okay. All right, yep, come on up. We know you're Wade, but we need you to tell us who you are.
I'm Wade Deloach, 156 Finsbury Road, president of Irmo Outreach. Just want to congratulate the new council and board. And the other, sure all the details, but there's something about Christmas lights being taken down at a certain time. And I just wanted to bring this comment up to you. You may want to think about it. Sometimes when Christmas lights go up at an odd time of year, it means that something other medically has gone wrong in the family, and they may not make it to the next Christmas. And usually it's children of young age or elderly. And I just want y'all to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Now we're on a roll. Okay, Mike, come on up.
Mike Ward, 118 Ashbourne Road. I'm here tonight representing the Irmo Okra Strut. And under new business, you have motions D, E, F, and G. And I just want to send our resounding support for all 4 of those motions, and we hope that you approve all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize, I didn't get a chance to do a consideration of communication. We dropped it. I just wanted to congratulate, actually, that's why I wanted to wait until the end, because I didn't want to step on your toes. Congratulate Dutch Fork on being football champs for the state, which of course is a huge honor, and it's very exciting for all of us. And hopefully we can do something to show our appreciation.
Good point. I also wanted to mention that February 7th is Hometown Legislation Day for Municipal Association, which we're all expected to attend, hopefully. So that does fall under that. But yeah, Dutch Fork, we're gonna do something, and Courtney, we're gonna figure out how we bring 80 football players in here. That's up to you. You got the job. Okay, with that, we're going to move into unfinished business. Second and final reading of Ordinance 2323, which is to amend Zoning and Land Development Article 5, sign regulations. This is referred by the Planning Commission. And this is a lot of minor changes, but some fairly specific changes. And so I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. We have discussion. Eric?
Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion in the last council meeting, and what I was trying to find on my phone, because I didn't print it out, was a amendment to that sign ordinance. It's not as read, right? So there are some amendments. Do we have those on the screen for folks to see? All right.
We don't have it for the screen.
All right. So then for the benefit of the public here, my goodness, don't want to read it all out, but I also want to make sure, yeah. Yeah, so I want to make a motion to amend section 5.3, sign regulations by type for permitted zones. I want to add, limitations on holiday displays apply only to non-residential uses. Residential uses may display holiday decorations at any time. To number 3, requirements. While holiday displays and decorations are only permitted during limited periods, non-residential uses may use non-blinking lights as accents and decoration throughout the year. If, in the opinion of the zoning administrator, lights or displays are distracting to motorists or beyond that which is deemed allowable by this ordinance, he or she may direct the business to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a ruling as to appropriateness. And to temporary sign requirements, RC, sub something C. It says during the period of 45 days, I'd like to change it to 45 days from 30. And add, during this period, signs other than banners may be 16 square feet in size on parcels of non-residential use, while signs are limited to 4 square feet on residential lots. Banners may still be up to 32 square feet during this period. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have an amended motion on the floor. Open for discussion.
Yeah, the two primary, the larger items here on this motion are changing it from 30 days for political signs to 45, and clarifying that the holiday light piece of it is for non-residential purposes, so that they, businesses don't go crazy and just leave it up year-round.
Am I pushing? There we go. With respect to the 45-day prior, and I'm talking political signs, I think it should be an even 60. I've said before, I think when it comes to anyone who's new to running for office, the incumbent has the advantage because they already have name recognition, especially if they've been an incumbent for quite a while. And I just recommend to add 15 more days to that. I don't think that would be too much of a stretch. My concern about any of the discussion about the political signs came out of one subdivision, and I just don't want to set a precedent that a subdivision now influences the entire town in terms of its policy. Because then what happens when the next subdivision wants something to happen outside of its boundaries? Thank you.
So are you making that as a motion?
Yes, I'm sorry if I didn't say it.
A motion to amend for a second amendment? Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, we can't go that far. There's an amendment on the floor that's been motioned and seconded. If she would like to amend, if it passes, once it comes back to the floor, she can make that motion and amendment then.
Yeah, I would just like to point out that the suspension of the time frame in which we can put out political signs is not limited. My understanding is it's not limited to political signs. It's to any signs, any temporary signs. So with that in mind, this can happen multiple times a year when you have primaries and runoffs and special elections, regular elections. So it potentially is opening up the use of temporary signs, could be for a significant time throughout the year. And that's why I'm in support of a 45-day limit on that.
Yeah, I think just to balance that out a little bit, that's kind of where I was headed as well, is that we're thinking as a council, we're thinking council election. But there are, elections throughout the year, and presidential primary, goodness, if you have both Republican and Democrat presidential primary in South Carolina rolling right into a council and then county election, and it can just get to be a lot. And I know there were a lot of people that were very glad to see the signs come down because they were tired of seeing them. We still do it though, right? The other side of it is that I think 45 really creates a nice middle ground between what was presented, or and some people really wanted, which was 30 days, and then some people wanted that 60 plus days, that 45 fits that. And it's also, the reason why I like 45 too is because it also, it's more than, in fact, speaking of, that HOA, it's more than what they would allow still. This change is actually completely independent of some of the conversations that happened earlier. The sign ordinance, in fact, I remember speaking with our assistant town administrator before that happened, and a lot of best practices in towns moving to 30 days just to make it clean. I think that's it.
Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor, which has been seconded for 45 days for as amended. And all the other, the as amended part. So clerk, would you call the roll on the amendment?
Ms. Coleman,
No.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Walker. Mayor Danielson.
Termination papers, please. We are creatures of habit. Yes. Okay, now we come back to the ordinance. There's a motion on the floor. There's been seconded. Are there any further amendments?
Now I say it again.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to change it to 60 days as opposed to 15. I am open to verbiage that would delineate between political signs and other temporary signs. Again, I am trying to champion for persons who are new to the political process. If, you know, I want to point out that everyone but me is an incumbent, and so you had name recognition going into the last election. I understand the concerns about other election signs that may or may not prevail. I thought it pointed out that we're talking about private residences as opposed to a right-of-way. I agree, maybe the right-of-way should have stricter limitations, but in yards, if they want to promote, especially with new people coming and wanting to be part of the political process, I just don't think we should give the incumbent the advantage. That's my opinion on that. So 60 days is for me.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to amend it for 60 days. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I want a second for discussion. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to follow up on that with was, Doug, I know that if I may call on Doug to answer a question, that's all right. Absolutely. Doug, I know that we had, one of the things that we had discussed, because I don't think the concern is town council candidates and their signs from setting this. It's really just around the huge number of signs that could be going on over the course of a year and putting it at 60 days. So I know one of the things that we had discussed was trying to like squeeze in a special dispensation for the Irmo Council elections, if you will. Is that something, is that just too far off the path to be able to do that?
I would say no. I mean, ultimately, council can vote for a law if they want to vote for a law, and if anyone wishes to, if anyone takes issue with that, I suppose they could sue. But I believe, you know, there was a discussion of having certain laws on odd-numbered years versus even-numbered years, so that local elections, which occur in odd-numbered years, could have that longer period, and then on even-numbered years, especially during a presidential primary season, where you could have all temporary signage would be legal for about 180 days a year if you did 60 days prior to each primary plus the general election, which would effectively negate even having temporary sign laws. And so if that's something that council would want, that's definitely something that we could initiate.
Okay. I just, to point it out, this isn't one and done, and if we need to come back and iterate on this, we can, and maybe there's something that we can work out that's not quite as clunky as even and odd years. That feels like a little clunky to me, but thank you.
The discussion?
I just wanted to point out the fact that even in odd years might not be such a great idea because we're going to have a special election which will occur in an even year coming up. So then that wouldn't fall into that category of being an odd year local election. And my other point was just to make sure that I'm clear that this is a temporary sign condition. This is not specifically political signs. Is that correct?
That's correct. According to the Supreme Court, due to the First Amendment, you cannot regulate the speech itself. What we can regulate in a sign ordinance is the location, size, and duration of signage, but not what's on those signs. And so during the election period, you can have used mattress signs, Mosquito Joe, whatever. Whereas normally, we would say that signs, in the right-of-way are always illegal, and signs located on a property like, say, Food Lion wants to put a sign up that says big sale. That's great, but our rules say you can only have it 60 days a year, and we have size rules around temporary signage. You have to get permission prior to putting them out. What this ordinance does is it gets rid of having to ask permission. It gets rid of how many signs you're allowed to have, and it modifies the sizes so that if you want to put a sign in front of Food Line and Food Line says, sure, I would love to, back one of y'all, then you can put that sign there without having to get a temporary sign permit to the town.
And also, just for clarification, temporary signs cannot ever go in right-of-way. Is that correct?
That is correct. The government can put a sign up, but a private citizen or a candidate cannot.
Other comments? Okay, we have an amended motion on the floor that's been properly seconded. We'll call for the vote. Renee, can you call for the roll call, please?
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
No.
Mr. Sickinger,
No.
and
Mayor
Mayor
Walker?
Danielson.
No. Okay, now we're back to the original ordinance. Any further discussion? Call for a roll, please. Third time's a charm.
Ms. Coleman,
Still no.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Thank you all for hashing that out, but we can, it's not something that we can't revisit under other circumstances. Second and final reading to amend the zoning and land articles. This is ordinance 2325. This basically will move residential units out of commercial zones and other assorted changes. The major item that we discussed at our last meeting was in mixed use, having residential on the second floor, above retail, that type of thing. So I think that's the bulk of what we were talking about. But as far as this ordinance is concerned, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved?
Second.
Motioned and seconded, open for discussion.
We discussed it last meeting as well, and my opinions, feelings haven't changed, and I don't have an amendment in front of me, so I'll let my highlighted and underlined councilwoman make that motion.
Yes, I move to amend ordinance 2325 to add a line on Table 1 for mixed-use residential structures being permitted in CO, CN, CG, and LM zones. Under Section 2-3.18, special exceptions for cigarette and cigar stores and vape shops, I move to add establishments which, under A, I move to add an additional sentence that reads, establishments which allow the on-site use of cigars and cigarettes, such as a cigar bar or smoker's lounge, are also classified under this category. And finally, to add under Section 13-2, selected definitions, a definition of mixed-use residential structure, a structure featuring both commercial and residential uses, typically consisting of a first-floor commercial use, such as an office, restaurant, or retail shop, with second and higher floors dedicated to residential uses.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a properly motioned amendment and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call roll call vote on the amendment, please.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Fall back now to the original ordinance, and any further discussion, I will call for a roll. I'm sorry, you got something? Yeah, I did. I looked over it first.
He made eye contact
Yeah.
with me.
No.
so I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Will the clerk read the roll?
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Thank you all. Under new business, we have the first reading of ordinance 2326 to amend the town code, chapter 2, division 2, section 261. I brought this to the table that we would change the start time of the meetings to 7:30. 6:30. I wanted it at 6, but Freudian slip. But in discussion with council members, we felt 6:30 would be a little easier for some to attend. The reason for that is simply the folks don't want to go home and be comfortable and then have to come back out for 7 o'clock. Most other town councils get together earlier than that. So that's why we're here. I don't want a motion, but since I brought it to the table, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion properly seconded. Further discussion? A call for a roll?
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Thank you. This is the agreement that we need to execute to formally sign up everybody that we just, more and more and more that we just signed up. So just so everybody knows, there are no change. They're currently under contract. This is an annual contract. It runs annually from the first to the end of the year. Part of our role tonight is to make sure we button all these legal things up. So there is no change to their contract. The price is the same. Their compensation is the same as last year. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a properly approved second. Further discussion?
Oh, you said everything I was going to say before it came to the floor, so.
I'm trying. Okay, with that, I'll call for a roll. Will the clerk read the roll?
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Okay. Now we're at the item C, under new business, the approval of an agreement with LCK LLC for project management services, not to exceed $180,000. This will hire a project manager for construction administration and project coordination services in connection with the construction or potential construction of a new town hall. Now, I just want to make sure that we're clear on this, that we broke this into 2 phases. And I believe there's a 30-day notice under both phases so that we can do our pre-construction and analyze and see where we are with the piece of property that we're thinking about putting this town hall on. There's a lot of work to be done to even get to the point where we decide we are going to do it. Never mind the cost and/or. So there's a lot of things what we're going to do that we have to do, and we're bringing in LCK, which is a very well respected project management group. It was done, I would say, millions of square feet in the state. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Is further discussion, please?
So it is, it's a lot of money for the first part of the project. Courtney, can you tell us a little bit about what we're committing to and what they're doing in that, for that amount of money?
Yeah, kind of like the mayor had pointed out, we negotiated this into 2 phases. The first phase is just really making sure that the site location is going to be viable for construction. So all the geotech, all the soil boring, utilities locates, all those kind of things, and then working with an architect and a civil engineer to give us some rough estimates on earthwork and things like that that'll take place. So that commitment will get us to basically a no-go, a go, no-go scenario. We'll be able to present to council if the site's buildable, a cost estimate. We will go through our procurement to bring on these civil engineers and the architects needed and get you to that point. So we hope to get that done within that 5-month timeframe and get that presented to council. At that point, council will have to make a decision to move forward or not. And if we do, then we're already negotiated for a contract to take us all the way to ribbon cutting. So the rest of the phases would be in that second phase. And that's based on a percentage of the build.
And so, thank you. And so this agreement includes phase 1 and phase 2?
That is
And that's-
correct.
Okay. So when I was reading the staff report on this, I saw $10,000 per month for 5 months, and I said that doesn't add up to $180,000. So that's why I wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, and just to get some more clarity to the staff report, so that gets us to the go, no-go, answer that you guys are going to be asking. We anticipate that the hiring of those other professionals needed and the work that will be needed is roughly going to run about $200,000. So this is not committing to that. This is just giving you some insight to once if we execute this contract and move forward with her, what the other costs associated with that scope of work is going to roughly cost.
Kind of the foundation for the project. And just point of information, the YouTube is showing us, but only in a corner of the video, so it's not. Yeah, okay. Well, as long as you know what's happening. All right.
Further discussion?
Again, just for clarity, approval of this agreement commits us to $50,000 for phase 1. And if we decide to go forward, it will include phase 2 with a total cost of $180,000. That includes the $50,000 from phase 1.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, basically, that is capped at 180, and we're obligated. We still have a 30-day out, even during the 50,000 stage. But we're taking slow, steady steps here because there's a lot of groundwork. There's a lot of groundwork and legwork involved here. And there she is, Mickey Layden. Good to see you.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, would you give us a quick update on your proposal?
Sure. I am Mickey Layden, President and CEO of LCK. And as the questions have been asked, I can clarify. There is a phase 1 proposal for us to get you to a point of a go, no-go decision, which will include all the investigative work on the site that's been proposed to make sure that we have vetted all of the utilities, all geotech, all the contours to make sure that we can actually put the building footprint on that site. and also to verify the program that you want to include in this new facility. So at the end of that phase one, you would have a conceptual site plan, a conceptual elevation and a building, and also a full comprehensive rough order of magnitude estimate that you can count on that includes the entire development cost, including construction, furniture, design services, data and cabling, everything, so that you will know at that point what the cost of the project will be, and you can make a decision to move forward or not. And to confirm that that first phase is included in the total of the not to exceed 180. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Ms. Layden? Courtney?
If I can just add that this also was reviewed by our special projects attorney, Jake Moore, who helped negotiate this contract.
I was there, I know. I think we're, this is the best path forward. And again, carefully and with the appropriate due diligence and see what we can and can't do. But we appreciating it. We appreciate you being here, Mickey. Thank you.
And thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Thank you all. An exciting project, and we're going to see where it goes. We also want feedback from the community too with this. So just bear with us, and we'll move this thing forward. With that brings me up to item D. This is where the fun starts, and I see Shania Twain's name. I'm taking presidential privilege here, whatever you want to call it, mayoral privilege, and just mentioning I see Shania Twain's name here. So we're looking for the Okra Strut is looking for an approval for us for them to reach out to the Shania Twain band review, whatever it is, and also or the Root Doctors for the one-time agreement to perform the opener for Friday night of the Okra Strut. So it'll go out to the one, then the other. The first one that grabs on will get the job. So they are looking for approval of $8,000, and with that, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, just to clarify, this is not literally Shania Twain.
Oh, you broke my heart. Hearing none, I'll call for a roll.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Almost there, Mike. Settle down. Okay, item E, approval to submit an offer to Cowboy Mouth not to exceed $13,000 to perform as the main concert at the 2024 Okra Strut on Friday night. This is from the Okra Strut Commission. I think we've had Cowboy Mouth here just a year or two ago, a couple of years ago, and my understanding was a huge success. But I wouldn't classify rock and roll as anything near my expertise. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the roll.
Ms. Coleman,
Thinking just for a second.
okay.
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Okay, the last one for the entertainment is for approval, submit offers to Absolute Queen. Now, I know this is not the real Queen because Freddie Mercury's dead. I know that. That's the area of my expertise. As the main concert at the 2024 Orchestra on Saturday night. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
First and second on the floor. Any further discussion?
I have a question, so maybe it was a little late to ask. Are these the only bands that are available or that we are gonna do, these three? That's it? I'm more of an R&B enthusiast, so I was just wondering where's the flavor in this, a little bit.
This is a recommendation from the orchestra, but that's a good question.
Yeah, and I wasn't paying attention that I thought Cowboy Mouth was supposed to be on Saturday, but that's just not me reading it properly. So anyway, I was just, were there no R&B bands to be found, or? I'm just asking.
Mike?
No, he's been waiting to get up this whole time, so.
I know, he's chomping over there.
I was hoping. So I definitely appreciate your comment. We have multiple people on the Orchestra Commission that work with talent agents each year. And we decide on a date, they reach out to those agents to find out which groups might be available, which artists or performers might be available. We had a lot of discussion this year about what was available. Some of it was outside of our budget and our ability to bring somebody in for the budget. Some of it was simply that we didn't have a big enough stage. One of the issues that we struggle with is we want to bring in some of these multiple piece bands, some of these R&B type bands, jazz bands, but they consume a lot of stage. And even though our amphitheater stage looks large, when you put all of the equipment on there, when you get the sound guys front of house, you get all that stuff on there, they just run out of space. And so after all of the discussion at the commission meetings, these were the bands that came out. So we ended up with East Coast Entertainment. We ended up, I believe, looking at 20 different bands from East Coast.
There's just no Beyonce review out there at
No.
all?
Now, I mean,
Nobody?
if there is a Beyonce review, I didn't hear about it this year. So one of the things that we have not made a big deal about, because it's still kind of in discussion, is we want to make the Saturday entertainment, more flavorful. So if you went to the 2023 event and you went over to the community stage, you probably saw we had community events, but we also hired a few other bands. We had I can't remember, it was like a bluegrass band. We had a jazz band come out there, and that was very well received, not just by the commissioners and everybody that's involved, but by the public. We got a lot of positive feedback. So this year, we're actually going to dedicate some more of our entertainment spending to make sure we can hire some bands there, so I can make sure we're adding some flavor in there where we
I
can.
fear you'll lose a huge demographic if the music's not right.
No,
For
I
some.
agree.
I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying it just seems like it's not
I
maybe
agree.
enough variety to
I agree,
draw everybody.
And I say this as loving and friendly as possible, but if you have entertainment connections, I would love to hear them, because that's always the biggest issue. Is we sit down to book and talk about who we're going to book, and then we look around at each other.
Well, I'll
and go.
ask
So,
around.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have any connections, please share them so we can look.
Okay.
Thank
will
you.
do.
I have a quick question before you go sit down. Mike. Okay. We still have, this is nowhere what we talked about a couple of weeks ago from a budget standpoint. So we're not going there, but this is only, by my math, this is $33,000. There's obviously some money in there to bring in maybe
Beyonce?
something, I don't know if we're going to get Beyonce, but I mean, if we
Well,
get
that was,
Beyonce-
yeah, so if I could be presumptuous, yes, if we go with 60,000 again as our entertainment budget, and this comes out to be somewhere around $35,000, that extra money was going to be pumped into the community stage and the extra stuff that we bring in throughout the day on Saturday. And so, yeah, that was what we were planning on doing.
Can we be sure that you're going to look hard at this so that we can get some?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I'll kick Shania to the curb if we can get Beyonce.
No, I mean, you can get Beyonce. Let's go.
It'll be turned out then, I
Yeah,
tell you.
or a Beyonce revival, whatever. I think
Yeah,
we
and
need to work on that.
And I can give you my word because last year, one of the conversations, Lauren Schur is one of our biggest pushers for entertainment. She's got a lot of entertainment background as well as connections. And one of the things that I talked to her about for last year and wanted to also see this year was, I don't know what this is called, that probably has a word, but I want to see complete audience turnover. So whoever comes out to see the opening band, I want to see those people get up and either walk around the park, leave because they're not interested in the second band, and the second band bring in a different audience. I think to me, if you plan both the first and second band that have the same kind of music, the same genre of music, you're going to have the same audience for both. And as the commissioner, one of the things I want to see is the most amount of people in Irmo for the Ochre Strut.
And outside of Irmo too, you know.
Yeah.
We want to bring in as many people as possible. 'cause
No, that's
it's
what I'm
50,
talking. I
right?
want to
Yeah.
see them in Irmo. I want
Right, I
to see
see
them
what you
in
mean,
our
yeah.
park. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons, I know y'all voted on it, but one of the reasons we considered bringing Cowboy Mouth back was because in the last about 6 years, that was the largest audience we have seen. And this being the 50th anniversary, we want to try, again, we're trying to get as many people in the park as possible. So,
Or Bruno, somebody.
yeah, Bruno.
But we'll take a look. Yeah.
There is a Bruno tribute we could do instead of Shania if that would, it costs about the same.
I
If
could
you think
use
Bruno is cool.
But, you know.
Yeah.
That's,
That Bruno, what with that Bruno? You said Bruno Mars, I
You're off
wouldn't
the
ask the
hook.
stupid question.
Oh, okay.
All right, so you're going to work on that?
Yes.
Okay,
Mike-
wait a minute,
Mike,
hold
I-
on.
I have a
Barb-
question.
Dr. Waldman has a question.
I see we're approving an opener and a main act for Friday night
yes.
and just a main act for Saturday night. Is there going to be an opener on Saturday night as
Y'all
well?
are stealing all of our thunder. So this has not been officially voted on or approved, but it has been discussed. Lauren and Buddy, who are responsible for our entertainment this year, been encouraged to include other people in Irmo even before the Ochre Strut. And so the idea at the moment that's not fully baked, it's being thought of, is to have a competition of the bands or competition of the musicians and have that either in July or August. And one of the takeaways for the winner of that competition will be they get the Saturday night opener spot for the Ochre Strut. And so that will be part of their bragging rights. That's why we don't have it on the agenda. Hopefully that's going to cost us a whopping $0.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I think that's it with the questions. So I will call for the roll. And go ahead, Renee.
Ms. Coleman,
No.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Okay, we're still on the Ochre Strut, and we might need you up again, Mike. Sit tight. But this is the appointment to the Ochre Strut Commission. There are 3 terms that are expiring at the end of December. And then we happen to have 3 applications. Lauren Schur, Buddy Burke, and Anna Unversaw. And Anna used to work for us and loves this community. Lauren, I think, has shown her mettle for years doing what she does with the strut. And Buddy Burke is new, but all of them, I've heard their names already tonight. So they're looking to be appointed, and this is a recommendation from the Orchestra Commission and Mr. Ward. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to nominate Lauren Schur, Buddy Burke, and Anna Unvershaw.
I'll second that.
First and second on the floor. Any further conversation, discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I might add a comment to that. It was put out on Constant Contact for applications and on our website. So anybody that's interested in applying for these positions should take a look at those or contact us. And we try to make sure we get the information out there.
These are the three we got, and the only three we got. There it is with my community engagement, right? I mean, we need more people involved, but there's a first and a second, no other discussion. We'll call for the roll.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Now is item 12 on the agenda, which is presentation by citizens.
We have item
sorry.
H. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Approval of the 2024 Irmo Town Council schedule. I've already approved it in my head, so I moved on, but do we have it on the, it's up on the board, up on the screen? Please tell me we're not going to nitpick this schedule to death because
We're going to
somebody's
nitpick the
foreseen.
schedule to death.
Pardon me? I know we spent some time last year on this, so any comments?
Yeah, the
Is there
only,
a motion?
are you asking for comments? Or
I'm asking for a motion first.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, now we'll have a discussion.
Yeah, the only one that stands out to me is July 2nd workshop. And July 4th is a holiday that it's hard to think that far ahead for myself, but also for members of the public who may be traveling. I think it might make sense for us to push it to the following week. The only call out I have there.
What if somebody's taking a whole week for the 4th of July, Eric?
What if? Just trying to be,
I'm joking.
recognize that, yeah.
Okay, so are you amending the motion?
Is there motions on a calendar schedule change? Yes, I guess so. Yes, I'll make a motion that we move the meeting of July 2nd workshop to July 9th.
Checking my calendar.
That's 4 days from my birthday, so I might have a problem with that.
The mayoral privilege only goes so far.
No. Looking at my calendar, because there's nothing exciting going on in July.
I'll
Yes, you
second
do
it.
need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a first and second. Any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, so we're going to call for the roll on the amended calendar, if you would, please. Renee?
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Now we'll roll back to the original ordinance request. Call for the roll, please.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
and Mayor Danielson.
Yes. Thank you. Now we'll move on to presentation to citizens. By citizens, again, 3 minutes. We can't engage in answering questions. You can tell us your thoughts, and we're certainly open to hearing that. I only have one on the list, but anybody can come up. Mr. Gabriel Penfield, you're on the list? Please provide your name, full address, and
My name is Gabriel Penfield. I live at 127 Pale Ivy Lane. And for my presentation, I just wanted to address Mayor Danielson directly. I believe I met you 4 years ago on my front porch. When you told me how humble you were, I knew that you probably wouldn't be one to bring much attention to yourself. Is what I've learned of recent, that winning a seat on council or winning an election is no small feat. It's not good for a man to be alone. So I have a gift or trinket to recognize you having won the election. It's an opportunity to just give it. Not good for a man to be alone. I know she did a lot to help support him, so they can decide how they would like to open it or not.
not sure whether to say thank you or not. It's very nice. Thank you, Gabriel. I appreciate that. My wife's going to love hanging this on the wall.
Just make sure if you put it in your front yard, it's not there for more than 45 days.
It's less than 4 square feet, so we're good. Thank you for that. That was, wasn't sure where you were going there, but I'm very appreciative. Anyone else have any comments? Yes, sir. We know who you are, but name and address, please, Mr. Stewart.
David Stewart, 101 Glossop. As part of your comprehensive plan, I surely hope you guys and girls will do something about those 2 potholes in front of Town Hall. Thanks.
Eric, Councilman Sickinger will get right on that with his tar in his back of his $68,000 electric vehicle he's driving around in. You gonna put tar in the back of that? Okay, didn't think so. Anybody else? Hearing none, seeing none? We have no, come on up.
George Frazier, 602 Timberleaf Court. Just caught a brain freeze. Oh yeah. Councilman Sickinger, Mayor Danielson, Dr. Waldman, Ms. Coleman. I'm hoping real soon we probably can get together and actually talk about some things with the IRMO Events Committee and, you know, the direction that we need to go with that. Councilman Sickinger, you were at our last meeting. We have a lot of things on the agenda, pretty positive things as well. And also to Mr. Ward, it would be a good thing if you could actually get with the IRMO Events Committee, because, you know, we know some people as well. If something we're trying to do as far as getting new bands, different type flavors. So the door is always open. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Anyone else? Okay, with that, we have no reason to go into executive session, so I will call for an adjournment and ask for a motion.
Also moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.